when many people talk about the truth, um, they think that they have the truth right here, and that's not true. We don't have the truth. The truth is objective; it exists out there. But what we have is brains. We have knowledge. We don't have the truth. We can hope that our knowledge corresponds to the objective truth, but our knowledge is effectively subjective. It can be wrong,
Hmm.
right? It can be biased. It can be just a small aspect of what reality is. Um, so there is like a significant difference between not just in art, but also like in truth seeking, between what is and what we think there is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I certainly agree. There are things that are true that nobody will ever know because whether
Yeah.
or not the number of stars in the universe is even or odd, like we will
Hmm.
never be able to count all of them. So it's true that
Yes.
it's either true that all this, it's even, or it's true that it's odd, but neither of us will ever know whether or not either one of those is true because we'll never count all of them.
Yeah. So there was a question I wanted to ask you regarding like this specific topic. Um, is it's what I typed in the chat, like when I wrote the comments, right? What do you think about the thought experiment? If I just reiterate it, like if you imagine somebody that is more intelligent than you trying to make an argument, they can make a more convincing argument than you can, and and then you can imagine somebody even more intelligent than them making an even better counter argument. And you can now that we have chat gpt, you can just imagine like two chatbots continuously making better and better and better counter arguments. Where does that leave intelligence with regards to seeking truth? How, because I know that many agnostics and atheists are very focused on logic and on intelligence, but it seems to me like if you're more intelligent, you're not only better at seeking the truth, you can also be better at seeking a lie. You can be better at deceiving yourself. It's so intelligence seems more like a power that needs direction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, so I agree that it's not hard to imagine that there's somebody smarter than I am who disagrees with me.
Hmm.
It's not
Yeah,
hard to
we can
imagine
all do
because
that.
it's almost certain it's not almost it is certainly true that there are much smarter people than I am who disagree with me. And then there are probably smarter people than them who disagree with them, so on and so forth. Um
Yeah.
and all that leaves me with, I think, is what I try to call an honest agnosticism, where I am
Hmm.
saying, yeah, I have beliefs. I could be wrong. But,
Okay.
here are the beliefs. This is why I believe them. And I will continue believing them until that smarter person explains to me why I'm wrong. And once it's obvious to me that I was wrong, oh, okay, great. I'll change my mind. But until then, all I can do is the best that I can do. And so that's, everybody's been watching me for as long as I've had this channel, do the best that I can
Hmm.
do. And oftentimes the best that I can do is not very good. Unfortunately, I'm just a fallible human being,
It's true for all of us,
Yeah,
right?
I wish I was Chat GPT, right? I wish I was a machine and I was a, perfect logic, whatever. Um, but I'm not. I'm just a human being. And so I've made mistakes publicly on this YouTube channel and then issued correction videos to the mistakes that I've made. I've done that a few times. And I will continue to do that for as long as I make videos because
Hmm.
as long as this mouth is moving, I am making mistakes. Um, and that used to bother me a lot, like a lot. Um,
Hmm.
but then I think it almost brought a sense of peace, or maybe I gave myself a sense of peace by thinking, that all I can do is the best that I can do,
Yeah.
and there's almost no sense um, in worrying about me not being the smartest person. Like I think that's okay. I think that's okay that I'm not the smartest person.
Yeah, and
I will use
even
my
if you
yeah.
were, I don't. Even if you were, I don't think it would necessarily make you better at seeking the truth,
Mm.
because if you don't, if you're not aligned properly, if you're super intelligent, you're going to be going in the opposite direction at super speed, right? So what that leads me to, what that led me to question is, one second, what's the missing variable, right? Like if intelligence can go one way or the other, what's like, what are we missing? What else is there that makes us believe one thing or the other? Because we all have
Oh,
beliefs, right?
Yeah.
We all have them. And at the end of the day, I think it is ultimately subjectivity that
Like
leads us into one direction or another.
bias and stuff.
Not necessarily bias. I don't think. I think that's a. I think subjectivity got a really bad rap because subjectivity is not just bias. It's much more than that. Every single decision we make is backed by some subjectivity. We do something because we want to do it. Anybody that wants to seek the truth, they do it because they want it, right? If you didn't want it, you wouldn't do it. There are many people who don't want to seek the truth. It's a choice,
Hmm.
but that's not necessarily bias, right? It's still subjective, but it's not bias.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
So it's a important distinction. So now the question is like, um, what came to my mind is okay. So here's like subjectivity. I don't know what exactly it's comprised of, but obviously we have some subjective attitudes that will get us closer to the truth and some that won't. And we all know that. Like if you speak to somebody who's very prideful and not very humble, are they more likely to find the truth or not?
No, because they'll never admit that they're wrong, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's one example, right? Another one is somebody who's ignorant or somebody who actually goes and tries to find the truth.
So, like, curiosity is
Yeah,
a
curiosity,
trait that will
exactly.
make somebody more likely to seek the truth.
That's right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so if somebody wants to actually seek the truth to the best of their ability, we shouldn't only be looking like at the arguments. We should be looking inside at our subjectivity to see how aligned we are. Because like obviously we've all uh, been sinful in the past, right? We are none of us are perfect. None of us are always humble. Sometimes we like to brag. So that sometimes we like to think we are right when we are not. That's something that has to be examined,
Hmm.
right? So there's a couple of things that somebody I think should do if they actually wants to seek the truth. They have to investigate which type of subjectivity aligns with the truth and which one doesn't, and then they have to kind of do like a reflective reflection upon themselves of what they are like and if they align. And after that, after they find out where they actually are, they have to come up with a strategy to become better. And that is effectively what can see in many religions. Many religions do this, right? There's like introspection, the like going to confession just by itself. That's examining how well aligned you are. We examine our pride, we examine our sloth, laziness, and other sins, right? All of them can get in the way of truth. So something like that, some kind of a process like that, I think is necessary, and it is present in religion. But I don't see it present in the agnostic or atheist world. I don't see that present very much, and that worries me because what if you don't know where you're aiming? How can you know you're going in the right direction? So that's my question.
Yeah. So I have a couple thoughts. I'll list them, and I'll list them, but some of them aren't exactly going to answer your question, so I'll return to those.
Sure.
The first is that I do want to push back a little bit on the idea that something like confession is purely introspective and just only gets rid of subjectivity. I have this theory of confession as um, also something that actually reinforces belief in Catholic doctrines. I'll return there because that doesn't answer your
Hmm.
question. Uh, your question was more about like, does that exist in secular culture? And part of me wants to say no. Like, there's no secular confession. There's therapy, but that's not the same thing. Um,
Hmm.
but what I do think that there is, and this isn't like a secular culture thing, um, but the scientific method, I think, does an excellent job at stripping away subjectivity. Uh, the scientific method is what is responsible for us having gone from inventing flying to going to the
Hmm.
moon in less than 100
Yeah.
years, right? In 70 years or something, we flew for the first time and then we flew to the moon. Um, that's incredible. Uh, and we couldn't have done that without um, the empirical method, right? So I think that empiricism does a very good job at stripping away the subjectivity part of it. And it does so by, to quote the philosopher Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings, right? So if you think that this plane is
Yes.
if you really feel like this plane is gonna fly, but it's made out of lead, it's not gonna fly. Lead is too heavy. Even if you really feel like it
Sure.
should.
So I think it's necessary to make a distinction between the types of subjectivity here, because like the facts don't care about your feelings. Feelings is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's I am not talking about the kind of subjectivity where you yes, there is this kind of subjectivity, like a bias where you think, okay, I want to believe this and therefore it must be true, right? That's yes, facts don't care about those kinds of that kind of subjectivity, those kinds of feelings. But science itself is driven by a desire to find the truth. It's a choice. Some people become scientists, some people don't. And the scientists that become scientists, they have to choose their discipline. And that choice is subjective. They have to the methods that we developed for science. They also require a desire to be accurate, right? So this science has not stripped us of subjectivity. It stripped us of bias, maybe, but not of subjectivity itself. And that's kind of my whole point. Like, and subjectivity is much more um, than just feelings. And here I want to make a distinction between feelings and what the will is, like free will, for example. If you imagine going to the gym, right? Um, First of all, that's a desire. That's a you want, it's something you want to do, but just because you want to do this doesn't mean that you will automatically become big the next second. It's something that manifests slowly over time. The desire doesn't change, but the manifestation does change, right? You slowly get bigger and bigger over time, or stronger, or I don't know, faster, or whatever you're training. So there is this aspect of manifestation that comes from subjectivity, and it's not only for the physical, but also for the mental. Memory is something you have to build. Memory is something you have to decide to build, and you have to make sure that you have the right subjectivity in terms of the will, like what you want to do, uh, in order to get to have knowledge that corresponds with the truth. That's what I'm trying to say. Like there is a distinction between the feelings and the will part of subjectivity.
And is your point kind of like in secular culture, not everybody has to go take a chemistry class. Not everybody needs to go become a scientist. But in Catholic culture, everybody does have to go to confession. So there is this part of Catholicism whereby everybody has to participate in this process to remove subjectivity, while that's not true in secular culture. Is that kind of your point?
Uh, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. I mean, even just going beyond mere Catholicism, um, it's you can also find this in other religions, right? Many like the many Buddhists, for example, they meditate upon and try to like find their desires and move detach themselves from the desires. Hinduism has something similar as well. So it's not only Catholicism that has this. I'm speaking like more broadly here, that there is a bigger tendency to focus on this part of subjectivity that is necessary, absolutely necessary for finding the truth, which is present in most religions, I think, that is not necessarily present. It can be like you could be an individual who actually does all these things by yourself. You don't have to be religious to do an introspection of who you are, but I don't see a general tendency to do that. I don't see most of the like big atheist YouTubers. No, nobody talks about that, and there's no aspect of this in any secular culture.
I think that I agree that secular culture doesn't try to secular isn't trying to make people undergo a process that removes subjectivity.
Mm-hmm.
In secular culture, if you choose to do that, great, and if you don't, nothing is making you do that.
Yeah.
I don't think I disagree with that at all. Um, but maybe now would be a good time for me to say that I don't think that confession actually works like that.